Hello.
Hello, can you?
I can hear you but not see you.
Okay, just a minute. I think it should be okay now.
Yep.
How about now?
Yep.
Okay. So,
all right, let me introduce you quickly. We have Dr. Syed Gouda today. Dr. Gouda hails from Egypt, but he has a Hong Kong passport. And Dr. Gouda is a scholar and poet himself. And he's a specialist on Chinese and many other meters, poetic meters. And has done a lot of work on that. So I invited him today to talk to us about traditional Chinese meter, and he will give some examples. And so let's welcome Dr. Gouda. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let me start by sharing this PPT I prepared. Confirm with me if you can see it.
Yes.
Okay, good. Good. Okay, today, as you can see from the title, we're going to talk about classical Chinese meters in the Tang Dynasty, because actually classical Chinese meter is really so rich. Is for a person who is not Chinese like me. Before I studied classical Chinese meter, I thought that it's just these 4 characters per line, or 5 or 7, or that's all. But actually, after studying the classical Chinese meters in details, I discovered that it's so rich that I don't think there is any other language, classical language, that has that rich meter as I found in the classical Chinese meter. Even when we study the modern Western meters and free verse, prose verse, everything, you can find all of this in the classical Chinese meters. Today we'll focus only on the meter that was prevailed in the Tang Dynasty. It came under different names. For example, you may refer to it as lishì. In English, usually it's called regulated verse. Regulated verse meaning, regulated. It comes in a pattern returned again and again. Or it can also, you can also refer to it as tinti, either tintiantadin or distin, meaning close or near these days. So it's in English, you may say modern form. And this comes in contrast to the gushì, right? The gushì is the ancient verse that was prevailed before the Tang Dynasty. In the Tang Dynasty, during that golden age of Chinese civilization, Chinese poetry and everything, also the meter was so much influenced by this ancient verse, by the gushì, by the way they used rhythm and meter. But it was more complicated. During the Tang Dynasty, it was more complicated. And because it still received that influence from the gushì, so there was another pattern other than the regulated verse, other than the lishì. There was another pattern that was a mix between what was prevailed in the Tang Dynasty and what they got from the gushì, from the ancient verse. And so it was like mixture. And that was called, you may refer to it as guti. And here you have to differentiate between gushì and guti. Gushì is the old ancient verse, classical verse, but guti is that new pattern that prevailed in the Tang Dynasty. Okay, and that was like a mixture between the rules and the principles of the ancient verse, gushì, and the new meters and the new rules that were introduced during the Tang Dynasty. You may also refer to it as wangti or gufeng, ancient style, Or you say 古风设律诗, meaning it's mixed ancient style regulated verse. Or you may refer to it as 入律古风. All these names refer to the same thing, and that is a bit different from 律诗, which is much more strict. It's very strict, this 律诗, because it has some strict rules for the poets who follow. However, the poets during that time, they also, they deviated from these rules at will. Tufu did that. Li Bai was very famous of deviating from all. He broke all the rules at will, of course. That he didn't break these rules not because he couldn't follow them, no, because he was innovator. He was innovator in the way he used rhythm. And he managed to use rhythm to express the right meaning he wants to express. For example, when he wants to express the meaning of his meaning, that he's in a hurry, he's in a rush, he uses this trisyllabic, censure, only 3 characters per line. When it's so, then it's 5. When it's prolonged, when it took longer, according to the meaning in the poem, took longer time, longer duration, he extended it to 7 lines, and sometimes 7 lines followed by 3 lines, and they can be read together, so it's like 10 lines. He's so genius. And just a great example of what the American poet and critic Ezra Pound said, rhythm must have a meaning. Ezra Pound said, rhythm must have a meaning. But of course, only great poets can use rhythm and change the rhythm of their poetry according to the meaning they want to deliver. Li Bai was one of those great poets. So the form of the poem in the Tang Dynasty changed or took different names according to the length of the poem. If the poem is 4 lines, then it's called 绝句, quatrain regulated verse. If it's 6 lines, meaning sestet meaning 6 lines, then it's 六句小里. Or octave, meaning 8 lines. Usually it's 8 lines. The regulated verse, it's usually comes in octave form, meaning 8 lines. 8 lines. 律诗. And of course, all the others were used, but the 律诗refers to the 8-line poem. Or 派律诗 when it's more than 8, when it's 10 or more. And there is also this 百两题, which is every line should be rhymed. It's called 百两题. In the classical, during the Tang Dynasty, the foot, which is the musical unit, the rhythmical unit that's used in the poetry, and you can find it in any poetry, English, French, any poetry you study. In Chinese, it's called ping and zi. Ping is the level tone, and usually we refer to it with this hyphen or minus, let's say, and zi. Deflected tone. Deflected tone is, we refer to it as plus. And in the old time, there were four tones. 4 tones. One is, the first is ping, and then shang, and then qi, and then ru. Ping sheng, shang sheng, qi sheng, and ru sheng. However, the modern Mandarin, this ru sheng doesn't exist anymore. It still exists in some dialects in southern China. And some dialects, still until now, they have this ru sheng. But modern Putonghua doesn't have this ru sheng anymore. But what we have now is that ping level, the ping sheng, divided into 2. One is yin, yin ping sheng, and one is yang ping sheng. So the first and the second tone in the modern Putonghua, they represent ping in the classical Chinese poetry too, while the third and the fourth tones in modern Chinese, we refer or represent this zi, the deflected tones. There are some patterns according to these four tones. Remember that these four tones were not used in poetry before the Tang Dynasty. Only beginning from the Tang Dynasty, these four tones got more important, and the poetry and the rhythm of poetry was based on the regulation and the variations of these tones of ping and zi. So these are four formats, four patterns for the ping rhyme. If we want to know the rhyme, whether it's ping rhyme or it's zi rhyme, we have to look at the even lines, not at the odd lines, meaning it's not according to the first line and the third line and the fifth line. No, it's according to the second line, the fourth line, the sixth line, and so on. So for here, for example, we take this as 20, or this pattern 20. If it's more than that, if it's if for example, these 4 lines, if it's 8 lines, it's repeated. The same pattern repeats. So for example, this one, ping 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 ping. Then ping 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 ping. That means this is the second line and this is the fourth line ends with ping. Then we know that this is a ping rhymed poem. The same with all the other patterns. There are different patterns, but all, as we can see, the second and the fourth ends with ping. Then we know this is ping rhyme. Here, for example, this is the codes of these, the first tone pattern. This is how we would represent it. Plus, plus, minus, minus. So you look at these signs and you know right away that this is zi, zi, ping, ping, zi, ping, ping, zi, zi, ping, 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 zi, 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 ping, ping, and so on and so forth. Let's take an example of the first pattern. We'll take a poem as an example of this first tone pattern. Remember the pattern. Okay, remember the pattern starts with zi, zi, ping, ping, zi. This is the first line. And then the second line is just the opposite. And then the third line, ping, 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 zi, zi. And then the fourth line is the opposite of the third line. And we are going to explain all of that now. Let's take this poem, for example. If we read this poem and we'll try to convert all the tones into ping and zi, we will find exactly matching the first pattern. Exactly. No deviation, no breaking away from any rule. Very perfect example of this first pattern. You can go through it line by line, but here in front of you, you will find it exactly zi, zi, ping, ping, zi, because third, fourth, then first, fourth. That means zi, zi, ping, ping, zi, and so on. Okay. The second pattern, the second tone pattern is the codes. This is the rhythm of the second tone pattern. Starts with 3 ping, ends with 2 zi, and then the second line is the opposite of the first line. Then there is variation in the third line, and the fourth line is the opposite of the third. There must be some variations, and we're going to explain that soon. This is the third tone pattern, the fourth tone pattern. Remember, all of them ends with ping rhyme. Of course, the third line doesn't have to be rhymed, okay? And even the second line doesn't have to be rhymed. If we look at, for example, here, this is the first pattern. Only the second and the fourth are rhymed. So if we convert it into English rhythm, English meter, it will be A, B, A, B, C, B. It will be A, B, C, B, because the first and the third don't rhyme. It's only the second and the fourth. The second one, it will be same, A, B, C, B. Okay, but the third and the fourth tones, they have more. They have 3 rhymes. So the second line also rhymes. The first one. The first rhymes with the second, rhymes with the fourth. So it's A, B, A. The fourth pattern is also the same, A, B, A. Okay. So these are the 4-tone patterns, but with zi rhyme. Zi rhyme. As you can see, the second line and the fourth line ends with zi. Then we know right away that this is zi rhyme, and the same. All this is the second pattern, third, fourth, same idea. So what is this ping zi? Ping zi together, they are 1 foot. 1 foot, zu, yin zu. This is 1 foot. And when they are used interchangeably, and when sometimes the poet deviates from the rules and use something called inversion, meaning change the ping into tsu and the tsu into ping sometimes to create more diversion in the rhythm. But together, ping tsu, this is 1 foot. But this is 1 foot. If we just say ping tsu, that means it's disyllabic foot. Disyllabic meaning has only 2 syllables. Ping tsu, only 2 syllables. But it may come into or as 3 syllables, like ping ping tsu, or tsu tsu ping, or ping ping ping, or tsu tsu, whatever. And in the Tang Dynasty, they liked also to end the many lines with a word of 3 characters. 3 characters. So it ends with ping ping ping, or tsu tsu tsu, or variations of both. So this is called trisyllabic foot. So the foot that consists of ping and tsu and ping and tsu could come in 2 syllables or 3 syllables, and sometimes even 4 syllables. Sometimes, rarely, but still happens. Okay, and they must contrast each other. Must contrast in a couplet. For example, the first 2 lines, couplets meaning 2. So the first 2 lines is 1 couplet. The second, the third, and the fourth is called the second couplet. This is the first couplet. This is the second couplet. The first couplet, the lines should contradict each other. Okay, they should be variations. So here the first line starts with tsu tsu, then the second line starts with ping ping. And you can see this ends with tsu, this one ends with ping. But the second couplet is the same, but here we have to notice that the second line of the first couplet has to match at least the second syllables, has to match the first line in the second couplet, meaning the second line in the whole poem and the third line in the whole poem. But if the poem is longer than that, 8 lines or 6 lines or 10 lines, then it's better to look at it as couplet by couplet. So we say it like this: the second line in the first couplet should match, especially the second syllable should match the first line in the second couplet, and so on for the third couplet, the fourth couplet, and so on. There is something called jan tui. Jan meaning parallel, and tui meaning antithetical couplet. This is just what I have said just now. What I have said, this is called antithetical. The first and the second line must be antithetical, but the second line and the third line must be parallels. Let's have an example. Like here, for example, this is the first line. Look, So the second syllable is so important. Why the second syllable is so important? Usually the second syllable and the fourth syllable, if it's wu and shi like this, meaning pentasyllabic meaning five syllables per line, 5 characters per line. If it's 5 characters per line, then the second and the fourth are the tones that determine the rhythm of the poem. If it's 7 characters, si and sh, then it's the second, the fourth, and the sixth. Okay, the rhythm is not determined by the odd tones, not by the first and the third and the fifth. No, it's we call it pivotal tones. Pivotal tones. This is the crucial, the central tones. It's the second, the fourth, and the sixth if it's 7 characters. So look at this here. The second syllable in the first line is different from the second one. So this is antithetical. But this line, ping, must be repeated in the second couplet, in the first line of the second couplet. So this is parallel. This is jan. This is toi. There is toi. There is antithesis between the first and the second. And then we come back. The relationship between the first and the second line is always antithetical. Okay. So this is antithetical. This is parallel. This is antithetical, and then this is parallel, and so on and so forth. Okay. I hope it's clear. When there is some, inversion meaning inversion, that's a poet changes the tsu into ping and the ping into tsu. For example, we call it shiji or shijan. That means there is a parallel missing or antithesis missing in the poem, in the line. There is something here we are going to introduce some features of classical Chinese poetry that are these features very important. We can't cover everything, of course, and we can't say everything about each point, but at least we'll try to have an idea. There is something called Kuping. Kuping, if we translate it into English, literally the orphan level tone. This Kuping, there are some rules regarding this Kuping. This, for example, here in this, it's Wu and Shi, pentasyllabic, or Ti and Shi, heptasyllabic. Kuping occurs only when the poem has ping as rhyme, when it is ping rhymed poem, then we may run the risk of having this Kuping, meaning what? Let me give you an example here. For example, if the poet changes the first, let's say the poet will change the first character here, this ping into tsu, will change this ping into tsu. What will happen? What will happen is that we will have something called Kuping, because the 2 ping left to us, they are separated by 2 tsu, by 2 or 3. 2 or 3 tsu separates the 2 ping. That means this is an error, or this is a defection. Let's call it this is defection. It's shortcoming. It's something Chinese poets in the past didn't like, and they called it Kuping. So they didn't want to have this ping isolated. So when it happens, they have to, this is called the inversion. When they change this ping into, it's called inversion. When this happens, they have to do in the second line to do something called counter inversion. Counter inversion meaning they come to a tsu in the second line and they change it into ping to strike a balance in the rhythm. And this is the same whether it's 5 characters per line or 7 characters per line. It's the same. And here also, this is another form, another pattern. It's the same idea. If you change, for example, this ping into tsu, that means you left this one alone. Then this is another defection. it's okay if you leave ts alone in one line. For example, this line, ts. If you change this ts into ping, it's okay because the ts is the rhyme. It's fine. So having this gu ts is okay, but having gu ping is not okay. Let's have an example here. An example here, this ping ping ts ts ping. So it's the first ping ping ts ts ping. It's the first pattern. Okay. Here, ping ping ts ts ping. The poet changed it to ts ping ping. He changed the first character, which is supposed to be ping. He used ji. Ji is zi, not ping. It's zi sheng, not ping sheng, right? So that means he changed. That means he left the ping here, gu ping, and this is defection. So what he did, he had to change in the same line to change the zi into ping. So he said xian is ping. So he struck the balance again. He changed the first character, the tone of the first character from ping to ts into ts, and to make it up, he changed the third character from ts into ping. Okay. If the line is 7 characters, it's exactly the same idea, because the difference between the 5 character line and the 7 character is just the first 2 syllables. In the 7th, you just add 2 syllables at the beginning, whether they are ping or ts, but the rule is the same, exactly the same. Okay. Let's have another example, a poem by Tufo here. The original pattern is zi zi ping ping zi, ping ping zi zi ping. The rhyme is ping. What Tufo did is that he changed the 4th tone from, it should be ping, but here sing chu is zi. Okay. And this is, as I said, one of the pivotal tones, the 2nd, the 4th, the 6th, one of the pivotal tones. So he had to make it up by changing the first ping into pa. That means change it into ts, change the ping into ts. And also change the ts into ping. Gui is ping. So in the end, the line would be read like zi zi ping zi zi, zi ping ping zi ping. Okay, so this is inversion and this is counter inversion to strike a balance in the rhythm. Should we missing contrast when there is missing contrast when there is a contrast is the antithesis that I just explained. The difference between the kushu and the lishu is that in the old time, the ancient verse, there was the identical tone on the 2nd and the 4th and the 6th syllables in each line of any couplet. It's okay if they have an identical tones in each lines, because as I said, tones were not so important in the kushu. Tones became so important and central elements in the Chinese poetry in the Tang dynasty. So in the Tang dynasty, there must be a different tone on the 2nd syllable in each line of the couplet. Just as I gave you example, I don't know if you still remember, but I give you some examples. Like here, for example, the 2nd tone is different here in the first line, different from the 3rd line. The 3rd and the 4th should be matching. So this is antithesis, this is parallel. And then the 3rd and the 4th come back to be, to change again. Okay? So when we miss this antithesis, this is called shutui, missing contrast or missing antithesis. There is another feature, rhythmic feature in the the regulated verse in the lishë, that's called xia sanliang, meaning the last three ping. Xia sanliang, the last three, like this, for example, this pattern. Zi, zi, ping, ping, ping. Ping, ping, ping usually or sometimes can be just one word. Not necessarily, but could be. And if it's ti and shi, then it's the same. The san zi wei, this is one word. It has to be just one word, but doesn't have to be the same tone. So it can come as three ping or three zi or variations between ping and zi. And later on, the critics added more variations like zi ping ping, zi zi ping, and so on. So, but this is just one word that comes in any variation, or even just one tone. That's the inversion. That's the inversion. As I said, the second, the fourth, the sixth tone are the pivotal tones, the central, that if they change, the rhythm of the poem will be changed and might disturb the line rhythm. That's why there has to be a makeup. There has to be counter inversion, just like the example I've given here. Tofu, he changed the fourth tone, which is pivotal tone. So to make it up, he changed the first and the third in the second line. Okay, I will give you some examples of these inversions, and because sometimes it's compulsory and sometimes it's not compulsory. It's up to the poet to do it or not. Like obligatory inversion. If the first ping changed into zi, that means what will happen? That means you will leave. You will have this coping. You will have coping the orphan one, because this is a rhymed one. So you have to change this zi into ping to have two ping in sequence, right? If you don't change this, that means you only have one ping and then the rhyme. The rhyme is not counted, so they are isolated by two zi, as I explained earlier. The same case and the same rule applied in the ti and shi. Obligatory inversion in couplets. If zi zi ping ping zi, if this ping changed, no, this is the couplet. If this ping changed into zi, so you have to, in the second line, the other zi must also be changed into ping. Again, for the sake of striking balance in the rhythm, and also to avoid this coping, because again, if you change this into zi, the ping into zi, that means you have only one ping here. So you have to make it up. This is the 5 line, and the same rule is applied in the 7 character per line. That's ti and shi, heptasyllabic verse. Another example here, this is the example I've just given. This is the same rule. This is the same rule. To change it, so in order to avoid this copying. Another example in pentasyllabic, meaning wu and shi, like here, this ping changed into zi. So that zi here was changed into ping. That's the example I've given. Here is a line by one way. You can check the line. Zi, 3, 1, 2, no, he zi, ping, zi, ping, zi. No, 3 zi. Lower ru, I forgot, I missed that ru. So lower ru niao, meaning 3 zi, zi. So he changed it from zi zi ping into zi zi zi. Okay, so what he did here in the third syllable, he changed the zi into ping, ren, this should be ren, ru, sorry, it's ru. Yeah, it's ru. So here he didn't change the second one, he kept it actually. Ping, zi. So actually he changed only the first line, not the second line. This is called the half inversion. Half inversion when just one line of the couplet is changed. I'll give you an example of it soon. So you see that poets don't have to strictly follow the rules. Especially in the Tang dynasty, the poets took liberty in following the rules whenever it suited them, and in deviating from the rules whenever it suited them. This is another example in the Ti and Shi, the seven lines. Here, this is the fifth syllable changed from ping into tsu. So it's li, which is tsu, and here the tsu should be changed into ping, but actually it's hong, which is still ping. So he actually changed it. Hong is ping, so it's correct. Yeah. So here he did it. While in the previous example, no, he kept it. The previous example, he kept this one as tsu, though he had the option to change it into ping, but he didn't do it. He did it here. That so should be changed into ping. He did that by using hong, which is a ping sheng. Another example here, the first ping changed into tsu, and so the third tsu changed into ping. And as you can see, the ping and tsu here had to be changed. So when he changed the ping into tsu, he had to change the other ping into tsu also. And this is the third tsu, also had to change it into ping. So to keep this antithesis and the parallel I have just explained. So see here, but again here, these are the rules, but we can see that the first she has not exactly changed. But what has changed is the third chong. This is exactly yes ping. And if we go to the second line, is it so, which is yes changed. And the third syllable, he's supposed to change it to ping, and he has changed it to ping tiang. So he made three changes, though he also had the right to, or the option, or the freedom, the liberty to change the first ping. So there are some inversions that are optional for the poet, like this first one, the ping could be changed into tsu. This is optional. Like here, this is the first ping. It could be changed into tsu or remain as it is as ping. This is optional to the poets. Depends on the flow of his poetry, the muse, how it inspires him. Depends on the inspiration, the flow of his writing. And also the tse could be changed into ping or could stay as it is. This is called half inversion. There are other, actually, something called bobbing aid defects in the poem that poets usually try to avoid, but actually they don't really stick to these rules, because we can find some of these defects still in the Tang dynasty, like Li Bai and Tofu. In their poetry we can find it. So I will not go through all these details, but now I will give you an example of a poem by Li Bai, a very famous poem by Li Bai, and we'll see how we'll try to scan it meaning try to identify the pattern. Let me remind you of the patterns, the 4 patterns again, and so you try to identify the pattern yourself. This is the 4 patterns if it's ping rhyme. Okay, if you can take a photo, if you'd like to use your mobile to take a photo, do that. And this is the 4 patterns if it's tsu rhyme. So let me share with you another file. In this file, I will also try to explain to you the difference between formal and dynamic equivalence. I'm sure all of you studied it before, and you studied the translation theories by Eugene Nida. He wrote about this formal and dynamic and functional also equivalence. So we will take one of Li Bai's poetry, one of his poems, to just as a showcase to explain and to study it in terms of rhythm and how this rhythm can be translated into English. So I will try in this simple presentation is to demonstrate how formal equivalence and dynamic equivalence work in poetry translation and examine their benefits and limitations, and also analyze some texts translation in both formal and dynamic equivalence. And to show how readers' response plays a great role. Readers' response is a theory, it's literary theory, okay? So it depends on you as a reader, how you would read the poem and how you would understand and analyze it. Okay, so
Dr. Guda?
Yeah?
Would we have time for a 10-minute break? Or
yeah, sure.
Yeah? Okay.
Okay, yeah, sure. Let's have a break.
Thank you.
Okay.
See everybody again at 40. All right, everybody, we're back.
Okay. Shall we resume?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll try it in this PPT to demonstrate how formal and dynamic equivalence work in translation, and also to examine their benefits and limitations, and analyze some texts, a Chinese poem translated in English, several versions of this poem, and also to show the reader's response and how to analyze it. And the methodology will be analytical and comparative method. This is the poem, Ting Yese. Of course, it's a very famous poem. You all know it by heart. This is the poem we are going to discuss and try to analyze today. Okay, I'm trying to hide my camera. It's taking. Okay, this is better for me. All right, this is the poem, and actually, if we try to analyze it according to the 4 patterns I just introduced to you earlier, then we find that it belongs to the fourth tone pattern. And if I ask you which rhyme in the poem is this poem ping rhyme or zi rhyme? You want to know, you have to look at the second and the fourth lines. So this pattern is ping rhyme pattern. Okay. However, Li Bai made some changes in version. He made a few inversions in the poem at his will, without following a certain rule or anything, but he changed the third zi into ping. Okay, and so he changed also the fourth ping into zi, and the second and the third from zi ping into ping zi, and there is no certain obligations on him to make any changes, but we can see that he just changed the tones based on the meaning and the words he wants to use and to create the certain rhythm he wants to. So the final outcome is ping, 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 zi, ping, ping, zi, 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 ping, zi, ping, zi, ping, zi, ping, 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 zi, ping. And here is the poem. 床前明月光，疑是地上霜。举头望明月，低头思故乡。You notice that I have divided the lines, each line, into groups. These groups are called 音组, 音组, 声音的音, 音组, and 组 meaning group. So sound group, you may call it sound group. But this 音组 in English meaning the foot, F-O-O-T. In Chinese, 音部. In Chinese, 音部. Bu here is the foot. So also in Chinese, you may call this hiatus or pause gun. Gun meaning, in English, you may call it caesura or caesura, C-A-E-S-U-R-A. You may pronounce it caesura or caesura, meaning hiatus, meaning pause. So there is a pause after a certain amount of, or a certain number of feet, based on the rhythmic and the grammar structure. We pause when we read poetry. We pause according to the meaning, according to the rhythm, according to the grammatical structure of the sentence. Okay. So here, when I scan this poem, scan here, scan, S-C-A-N, S-C-A-N meaning to study or to analyze the poem rhythmically, metrically. This is called scansion, or you scan the poem when you analyze the meter of the poem. So I would divide these lines or scan the lines this way, because in the Tang Dynasty, the Wu Yanshi, the 5-character or 5 pentasyllabic poetry is divided 2-2-1. 2-2-1. Okay. Of course, some people may divide when they read this Wu Yanshi, they may divide it into 2 and 3 or 3 and 2. Okay, but it's up to you. It's up to you. But usually it's 2-2-1. And here I divided, this is my own scansion of the poem. I divided it into dissyllabic structure, dissyllabic units. So Chuangtian, again, according to the grammar, according to the meaning, according to the rhythm. So Chuangtian, I would put it as one Yinbu, this one Yinbu. Mingyue, and then Guang. You may put, somebody might say, oh, I want Mingyue Guang together. So it's 2 and 3. Okay, it's up to you. Then yi shi, di shang, shuang, the same rule. You may say di shang shuang, you want to put them together, or you want to divide them. I prefer to divide them here. Ji tou wang min yue, di tou si gu xiang. We find, or we notice here, there is also a change if we read it this way. I mean, if we scan the poem this way, divide it this way, we notice that 2, 2, 1, and then 2, 2, 1, and then 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2. Is there any meaning for this change in the rhythm? Could there be any meaning? Maybe there is meaning, maybe there is not meaning, but for me, I would try to give it a meaning, because for a poet like Li Bai, these things should not be just read lightly or taken lightly. We as critics, we have to find meaning behind it. So I think the one here and the si, usually in prosody is the study of meter. Prosody, Prosody, is the study of meter. In the study of meter, when the foot is dissyllabic, meaning has 2 syllables, that means this is the natural rhythm. The natural rhythm. Like in English, for example, iambic. Iambic is 2 syllables. Tatam. So it goes tatam, tatam, tatam. And it's known that iambic is the rhythm of the natural speech in English. And it was so also in the ancient Greek poetry. When it's 3 units, when the foot has 3 syllables, that means there is speed. There's speed. You speed up things. Like in English is called the foot called anapist and dactyl, like ta-ta-tum. This is in English. Ta-ta-tum. This is called anapist. Or start with stressed, then followed by unstressed, that's dactyl, like tam-ta-ta, tam-ta-ta. If you follow this rhythm, you will notice, even if you haven't studied English prosody and meter, you will notice that there is a difference between ta-tum, 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 which is the natural rhythm of speech, and ta-ta-tum, ta-ta-tum, ta-ta-tum. This is much faster. Or tam-ta-ta, tam-ta-ta. This is when the foot has 3 syllables. If the foot has 1 syllable, then there is tension. Tension. You don't feel comfortable. There is the air is electrified. There is tension in the. You don't know whether you should read it naturally or you speed it up. There is tension here, and here I see that wang and si. There is tension in the rhythm. Why there is tension? Because he is longing to go back to his family and to go back to his hometown, and he himself, his feelings is in turmoil. He's not in his natural state. In the first and the second line, he was in his natural state. He just looked at the floor, and he saw the frost, and he thought it seems like frost, but actually it's the moonlight. Everything is just in the natural, is a natural being, natural condition. But once he remembered his family, and he started to long for their family, for his family to go back, then there is tension here. That's why we can see and can feel the rhythm has changed from chuang tian min yue guang, yi shi di shang shuang, ji tou, then wang, ji tou wang min yue, ji tou si gu xiang. Wang and si, they stand alone as verbs. they stand alone. They are different. The rhythm is different from the first and the second line. Let's have some different versions of how different translators translated this poem, because this poem translated maybe hundreds of times, right? And everyone used his own technique and his own way of translating it. Some of them tried to use the dynamic equivalence, some tried to use formal, and some tried to use both formal and dynamic. Okay, like this poem here by Obata, Shigeyoshi Obata. He was almost the first to translate it in 1923. He translated a lot of Chinese poetry, especially poetry by Li Bai. So we can see that there's something different here. Is kan. There's two versions of the poem. Chuangtian Ning Yue Guang. Another version is Kan Yue Guang. And here Chito Wang Shan Yue, not Chito Wang Min Yue. Okay, so this is in the book he translated. This is the poem he translated. So if we try to analyze his translation and try to see if it's formal or dynamic, I saw the moonlight before my couch. So here that is the translation of Kan, and wondered if it were not the frost on the ground. I raised my head and looked out on the mountain moon Shan-yue. I bowed my head and thought of my far-off home. So, of course, in the Chinese poem, it has this parallel, Qi-tou and Ti-tou, in meanings, of course, Qi and Ti. This is antithesis, the opposite meanings, but the lines, they have parallelism. Qi-tou and Ti-tou, this is parallelism. So in English also, Obata tried to keep this parallelism. I raised my head, I bowed my head. This parallelism, he tried to keep it. So this is formal, I would say this is formal equivalence, because he tried to stick to the Chinese poems as much as possible, at least in terms of meaning. He translated it almost very faithfully. He rendered a faithful translation. So I would say this is formal equivalence. You may say, no, I find it's dynamic equivalency. It's up to you, but you need to explain why you think so, right? And here, the antithesis, as I said, between raise and bow, and also there is a parallelism. There is another translation by Sun Yi in 1982. And here we come back to Ming Yue Guang and Wang Mingyue, the poem that we all know by this version. Let's see how he translated it, and let's try to appreciate the English translation and try to find some literary and aesthetic devices in the translation. The moonlight lies bright before my couch. The moonlight lies bright before my couch. How to call this repetition of L? Can you see there is repetition of L, bright before, and B, bright before. This repetition of the first letter, when it's the first letter of the word repeated, this is called alliteration. This is called alliteration, okay? So, I raise my head and gaze. Look at raise and gaze. This is a rhyme, but this is not end rhyme. So we can see that he did not depend, because of course, in Chinese, the rhyme is guang, shuang, xiang. Guang, Guang, Xiang. So it's A, A, B, A. This is the rhyme scheme of the Chinese poem. It's very difficult to keep this rhyme scheme in English. It's not easy, of course. It's not easy to follow the rhyme scheme of the original poem. So you have to make it up by trying to put within the lines some other sounds to make up for the lost end rhyme. So here, this is what Sun Yu did. He actually used what we call internal rhyme or middle rhyme. This raise, gaze, this is rhyme. Raise, gaze, okay? And he used alliteration in bright before. Alliteration was the main rhyme in the Old English poetry. Before Chaucer introduced and was influenced by Latin and French poetry, and then introduced the end rhyme into the English poetry. But the ancient English, the old poetry, old English poetry was mainly alliteration. There was no end rhyme. So here he's using them. So this is very, very good. You can see line right before. I hang my head.
Syed, Dr. Gouda, can you share the PPT? I think you didn't share the PPT.
How come it's in green?
Is it?
It's in green. Can you all see?
Yes, a student left a message in the chat. Jojo, you can't see it?
I can see no. Thank you very much. Because there's no slide, not more. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Is it okay now?
Yes, it's okay.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. Okay, let me show you the few previous ones. This is the poem. Okay. This is the. I would analyze the poem as a fourth tone pattern, right? And this is the changes he did. But I don't think he followed a certain rule. He just did it according to his own whim, his own poetic whim. And this is the poem. That's really pretty. Why didn't you say something earlier? Okay. So this is the poem here. This is how I divided it. This is my own scansion. I would read it this way, or I would analyze the rhythm. I don't have to read it this way, but the analyzing the rhythm, I think I would do it this way. 2 2 1 2 2 1, then 2 1 2 2 1 2. Okay. And then the Obata, this is how he translated it. There is Kan and Shan. This is another version, the second version of the poem. So he translated it literally. We can see that he translated it literally. I saw the moonlight before my couch and wondered if it were not the frost on the ground. Not poetic translation. We can see it, you can feel it's more like prose. The only thing that I raised my head, I bowed my, but here he just followed the Chinese structure. He faithfully followed the Chinese structure. That's why I would say this is formal equivalence, because he tried to keep the original text and the original meaning. The source text was his focus. Sun Yu did something different. Sun Yu did something different here. As I said, he tried, even though he didn't use end rhyme, but he used other types of musical devices and poetic devices, like light, the repetition of the L, the repetition of the B. This is alliteration. The internal rhyme, raise, gaze, hang my head, I hang my head. The H again, the repetition of hang, head. Again, this is alliteration. All this creates musicality. Okay. Thinking of my native land. Couch, ground, moon, land. There is no end rhyme, but he did his best to include some musicality within the lines. Not bad, not bad. So I would say this is a syllabic rhythm. Syllabic, he used syllabic rhythm. Of course, in the English rhythm, there is syllabic rhythm, there is accentual rhythm, rhythm that you follow the meter, like follow the feet, like iambic or anapaestic, or there is accents, falling accents to punctuate the rhythm of the line. And so I would say he also used formal equivalence because he also rendered a faithful translation. This is a very faithful translation, as faithful as he could do. Let's move to another version. This one is translated by Cooper, Arthur Cooper, American translator. So the Chinese poem has 4 lines. Let's count the English. 8 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me show it to you one by one. So he translated the first 2 lines into 4 and the second 2 lines into another 4. He thought that this would be better for his English reader. But again, he tried to include some musicality, like again, before my bed, B, alliteration, right? And again, bright. Before my bed, there is bright moonlight, 3 B's. This is alliteration. So that it seems this sound, this S sound, so that it seems, again, alliteration, like frost on the ground. Lifting my head, I watch the bright moon. Lowering my head, I dream that I'm home. Again, lifting and lowering. The original poem is antithetical, G, T. So the translator here, we can't give the translator too much credit because the original is like this. But the credit we can give to the translator is that he used the lift and lower. Lifting, lowering, using L, both of them starts with L, another alliteration. So lifting my head, lowering my head, perfect rhythm in English. And then I watch, I dream, perfect parallelism. So it's matching the rhythm in the Chinese, in the original Chinese text. But that was his choice to divide it into 2 stanzas. Each couplet, of course, Chinese, it's 2 couplets. In English, 2 stanzas. So this is a syllabic rhythm. So if we count the syllables before my bed, 4 rhythm. There is, right, moonlight, 5 syllables. 4, 5, 4, 5 in the first, and then 4, 5, 5, 5 in the second stanza. So we can see that this is syllabic rhythm. This is called syllabic rhythm because the number of the syllables are almost same, very close. You can also write it this way. Before my bed there is bright moonlight, so that it seems like frost on the ground. Lifting my head I watch the bright moon, lowering my head I dream that I'm home. You can also write it this way, but he preferred, I have his book, he preferred to translate it in 2 stanzas. Rewi Ali, he translated it such: over my bed the moonlight streams. Over my bed the moonlight streams, making it seem like the frost-covered earth. You can see earth, he put earth here in the second. This is called run-up line. When the line is cut and you need to continue reading in the second line, this is called run-up line. So making it seem like the frost-covered earth, and then you have to stop for a while. But why he did that? Because of the syllabics. Then when we see that, we should realize if the accents are not so clear, if it's not accentual, then we know that it's syllabic. That's why you see it's 8, 8, 7, 8, 6. And he rendered it in 5 lines, not 4. 5 lines. So this is dynamic. And also the previous line, dynamic, the previous one, this is dynamic equivalence. This is not formal equivalence. This is dynamic. Because his main target is the English reader. His main focus is the target reader, not the source reader. Both of them, over my bed, the moonlight streams, making it stream like. We can see also bed. Some of them translated as bed. Some of them translated as couch. Like Sunni translated it couch. Obata translated it couch. And there is a third meaning for the word chuan. There is a third meaning. Do you know? Anybody knows the third meaning of? It could be bed, it could be couch, and it could be something else. None of them translated it as the third one. Though it could be. Actually, in the old time, in the backyards, each family used to have a well. And the well is actually circled with fence or small wall to protect children from falling into the well. So chuan here also could mean this well, W-E-L-L, where they can pull water, right? But all of them translated either bed or couch. That's fine. So he says, over my bed the moonlight streams, making it seem like the frost-covered earth. Lifting my head, I see the brightness. And here you have to stop. So you can see he doesn't stop at the end of the line. No, he keeps reading. You have to keep reading until there is a comma and then you stop. So don't be fooled by the line cut. The line cut doesn't represent how you should read it. So we know right away that this is syllabic rhythm. Syllabic, and if you count the syllables, it will be 8, 8, 7, 8, 6. Very similar. This is almost same. This is syllabic, and this is dynamic equivalence. Lifting my head, I see the brightness, then lowering it. See, he didn't repeat the head. Because in English, in Chinese, this repetition is so good, but in English, it may not sound that good. In English, when you say head at the beginning, then you don't need to say head again. You say it, you refer to your head as it, right? This is the natural way of writing in English. But in Chinese is different. Chinese, the appreciation is different. So here, when we see that he did not repeat the word head, we know right away that, yeah, he wants to render it in natural English, natural modern English. He didn't repeat the same words. Lifting my head, I see the brightness, then lowering it and filled with thoughts of home. This is dynamic, 100% dynamic equivalence. Another translation, this is a Chinese translator, Xi Wanzhong. Xi Wanzhong is very famous Chinese translator, and he's very well known of translating classical Chinese poetry into English. But now he's following a completely different approach, different methods. If we read it, before my bed, a pool of light. Is it hot frost upon the ground? Eyes raised, I see the moon so bright. Head bent in homesickness, I'm drowned. Do you notice something in this translation? Do you notice something? This is the first poem that has end rhyme, right? All the other versions, none of them has end rhyme, none. Couch, ground, moon, home, no end rhyme. Couch, ground, moon, land, no end rhyme. Bed, moonlight, seams, ground, head, no end rhyme. Streams covered, sea, no end rhyme. This is the only one. Light, bright, ground, drowned, So there is rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B. There is rhyme scheme. So when we see this structure, we can see that he tried his best to keep the rhyme scheme of the original text. Even the rhyme scheme of the original text is A, B, A, A, B, A, 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 B, A. His rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B. Doesn't matter much, but the thing is that he tried to keep an end rhyme and he tried to keep a rhyme scheme. Not only that, while doing that, while rendering the poem in or following this formal equivalence, he also tried to achieve dynamic equivalence, but not in the way other Western translators did, not in their way. He tried to show off his mastery of English rhythm, English meter. So he tried, since the poem he translates is as a classical poem, classical meter, so he also tried to render it into classical meter in English. So this classical meter is before my bed a pool of light. This is called tetrameter, iambic tetrameter in English. Why it's iambic tetrameter? Tetra in Greek meaning 4. Tetra in Greek meaning 4. Penta is 5. Hexa 6. Hepta 7. Octa 8, and so on. Deca 10, and so on. So this is tetrameter, iambic tetrameter. Why it's iambic? As I said earlier, iambic is the adjective of the words or the name of the foot, which is iamb. Iamb is a 2-syllabic word, 2-syllabic foot. The first is unstressed, the first syllable is unstressed, the second syllable is stressed. So tatam. The second syllable should receive the stress, the accent. This is what we call accentual rhythm. Okay, so here he says like before. When you read before, do you put stress on the B or the 4? Once you put stress on the 4, right? You say before, not before. If you put stress on the first syllable, you will pronounce it as before, not English. So you have to pronounce it as before. Before, then it's iambic. Tatam, before, tatam. So you would read it in English rhythm, you would read it as before my bed, a pool of light, tatam, 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 4 feet. Is it or frost upon the ground? And again, upon, you see, you put the stress on upon. And then the ground, that is unstressed. The ground is much heavier word, longer word, so the stress should be there. Eyes raised, not exactly iambic, but since we follow the iambic rhythm, then we can read it. Eyes raised. This could be spondee actually. Spondee meaning a foot of 2 syllables, but both of them stressed. So tam tam, like this. Eyes raised. I see, and then he returns to the iambic. I see the moon so bright. Tatam tatam tatam. Head bent. This is spondee. Head bent. This is spondee. Head bent. Both of them receive this stress. Tum, tum. Same like the third line. Eyes raised, head bent. In homesickness, I'm drowned. In home sickness, I'm drowned. This is also because you don't say sickness. You don't put stress on ness of sickness. No. But he ends the line with iambic, full iambic. I'm drowned. I'm drowned. This is iambic. And with the end rhyme, he managed to achieve this rhythmical effect. And again, before bed, the repetition of the B, this is alliteration. Eyes raised, I see the moon so bright. Head bent in homesickness. Head and homesickness also alliteration. So this is I would say this is accentual rhythm. When I analyze this rhythm, I would say this is accentual. Why it's accentual? Because the iambic foot is very clear. It's very clear before my bite. The accent is very clear. So this is accentual rhythm. Okay, and it's iambic tetrameter, of course, because most of the many poets, they don't have to follow exactly every line is iambic. All of them, including all the great English and American poets, they do this, or they use this inversion, meaning they change from iambic to trochee to anapist to dactyl to spondee. They change the rhythm according to the meaning. So he did that here. So it's not a defect. It's not an error. No, it's fine. It's fine. And the equivalence, he tried to achieve dynamic equivalence by rendering, at least in the form, he tried to achieve dynamic equivalence as far as the form is concerned. But how much he managed to do that is another thing. I mean, for a native speaker, if a native speaker reads this translation, will he enjoy the translation in the same way of this one done by Rewi Ali or this one by Arthur Cooper, which is a bit loose translation, a bit free translation? You can see that the language is more natural. Before my bed, there is bright moonlight, so that it seems like frost on the ground. It's very natural. And here also, over my bed, the moonlight streams, making it seem like the frost-covered earth. Again, very natural English. But here is not really natural English. Is it her frost upon the ground, eyes raised, you know, I see the moon so bright, head bent, in homesickness I'm drowned. You can feel that he kept this drowned to use it as an end rhyme. So you can see right away that this is not natural English. Not natural English. But as far as the rhythm is concerned, he did a great job. All right? He did a great job. And this is how I would scan it. Before my bed, a pool of light. Is it her frost upon the ground? Eyes raised, I see the moon so bright. Head bent, in homesickness I'm drowned. Ta-tum, 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 ta-tum. Most of the feats here are iambic feet. And we have another one here by Seaton, J.P. and Creyer James. And this one is very free translation. Look at the poem. It's like really free verse. Free verse. And he's again using the old version or the second version, Ken and Shen, instead of Mingyue Kwang and Wang Mingyue, Ken Yue Kwang and Wang Shanyue. So look at these short lines. Moonlight, just one word in one line. Moonlight on my bed, or frost on the earth. Of course, when you read it, you have to connect the lines together. But this is how he would like to put it, to make it at least look like a poem. Moonlight by my bed, and by and bed also alliteration, or frost on the earth. I raise my head, it's the moon over the mountain, and lie back thinking of home. This is a bit, he gives himself more of liberty in terms of the form, at least, in terms of form. So this is dynamic. Since he tried, or he preferred to render it in this way, this is dynamic. He thinks that this sounds better in English, sounds more natural in English, will appeal more to the modern English reader. So, and of course, we can see that there is no accentual rhythm, so this is syllabic, and there is no certain form. It's free translation. There is no certain form. There is no need even to count the syllables. We may count the syllables and say this is syllabic, but it's free. It's free form, free verse. Another one by David Hinton in 1996. again using the second version, seeing moonlight here at my bed and thinking it's frost on the ground, I look up, gaze at the mountain moon, then back dreaming of my old home. Again, there is no end rhyme, and we can see that there is no much of rhythm within the lines, except maybe mountain moon alliteration. Then, yeah, there is not much to say about the rhythm of the poem, and he tried to stick to the meaning of the. So it's syllabic rhythm. The first line has 8 syllables, then 8, then 9, then 8. It's not accentual, it's syllabic, because you cannot detect real feet there. And it's dynamic equivalence, it's clear. So I want to say, or what I wanted to say, that a translator of poetry, of course, poetry is the most difficult translation, the most difficult type of translation. A translator of poetry can achieve a formal equivalence without sacrificing all the dynamic effect on the target reader, and achieve a dynamic equivalence without losing much of the message in the source text. Equivalence theory mainly depends on the reader's individualistic response in determining the effect achieved. It depends on you and how you will like it. Like the example I gave here, I said this translation by Xi Wantong, perfect in terms of rhythm, but in terms of language, is it perfect? Is it natural or not? It depends on the reader. Okay, these are the sources, and actually, if you want to read more about Chinese rhythm and about the ping and zi and the rhyme, and I can suggest to you some of the books that I personally use. This is like dictionary of the rhyme, Chinese rhyme. This is a dictionary of ping and zi. These books are very interesting and very good books that will really inform you a lot about classical Chinese poetry and the rhythm of classical Chinese poetry. And this one also is very interesting, very good one. So that's all for me today. Of course, I couldn't cover everything. It's almost impossible, but I hope it's useful and you have learned something. If you have any questions, I'm here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Gouda. That was very good, especially your last slides encouraging us to really find solution and that they are there. You know, we just have to adapt and find different forms, even if we cannot use the same one, but it is possible to compensate for a lot of this. Yeah, Thank you very much. And does anybody have any questions?
Yes, this is Joseph. Ask a question for Dr. Gouda. You know, Cantonese, there are 9 voices and 6 tones. Is it better to read the poetry in Cantonese than Mandarin? Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I missed the question. What was the question?
Okay, I mean, in Cantonese, there are 9 voices and 6 tones. It's more voices and tones than Mandarin.
Cantonese, you mean Cantonese?
Yeah.
Cantonese. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is
actually, yeah, you can read it. Are you talking about the recitation? How would you recite the poem? About the recitation, right? About the reading?
I mean, only for read the poetry, because there are more voices and tones than Mandarin in Cantonese. So for my own experience, I think that the lyrics in Cantonese is sound more beautiful than the same song in Mandarin. So is it the same in poetry to read the poetry?
Because actually most of the classical poetry were written in southern dialects. That's why it sounds more beautiful in Cantonese. But however, it's still in Mandarin, it's still the tone is still there. The tone, because as I said, the main four ancient tones, the ping, the shang, the chi, the ru, only the ru is missed, but still exists, missed in the modern Mandarin, but still exists in some southern. That's why you see the southern dialects has more. As you said, there in Cantonese there is 9, and some even say has 12 tone, but at least 9 tone in Cantonese. So as you can see, there are more tones in southern dialects than in Mandarin. So I can understand why it should sound more beautiful in Cantonese, but it's still in Mandarin. It's only that Ru Sheng is missing, but the other 3, the Ping Sheng, Yin Ping Sheng, Yang Ping Sheng, and the Shang Ping, the Shang Sheng and the Qi Sheng, all of them they almost the same tone. The same tone, even if it changed throughout history, but the relationship between the tones also changed. So that's why we still read it in Mandarin, and we still can hear the rhythm, like Guang, Shuang, Xiang. The rhythm is clear. I mean, the rhyme is so clear. Chuang Qian, Ming Yue Guang, Yi Shi Di Shang Shuang. You can still hear the rhythm and you can still hear the rhyme fully. But maybe in other poems, yes, they sound better in southern accents, especially when they employ this Wu Sheng that's missed in the modern Mandarin Chinese.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Professor.
Hello.
I have a question. One day I asked my professor that I said I really want to research on the Little Women in my thesis, and he said to me that if you really want to do a textual analysis on Little Women, then you have to find all the versions that exist that have been published. I really have a difficulty here. Do you think it's possible for me to search all the versions of Little Women in Chinese in the world?
Little Women, you said? Little Women, the novel?
Oh, yes.
Little Women.
Or any kind of text, because if you want to research on it, then you have to find all the exist version, the published versions.
Of course,
I wonder
if you want to do a perfect job, you have to. If you want to do a perfect job, but sometimes we don't have the means to put our hands on every version. Sometimes we can't find the hard copy in the bookshop, or in the library, and sometimes there is no PDF. Sometimes we are helpless. But as much as you can, you must collect everything that's written about the novel you want to write about. If it's translated in different version, you must read the different versions and try to find out how they are different from each other and what scholars said about this novel and so on. So yes, I would advise you to try to get as much sources and texts and materials about that book as much as you can, if you have the means to do so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
No, if not, then
yes.
yeah. Winston, yeah.
Yeah. I want to ask, do you think what Xu Yuanchong did in his translation was preserving the most important thing?
Preserving
in terms of Chinese poets, poems.
Well, you see, actually, I like his translation, and actually, even though you see modern English reader, they don't care much about this kind of formal and traditional rhythm. They don't care much because even nowadays, English and American poets, when they write poetry, they don't write this way. When they write poetry, they write like this. They write like this. Just a minute. Here. This is how they write modern poetry. So this is how they appreciate. But as I said, it depends on the reader. For me, I appreciate this kind of. I still appreciate. I'm still classical person, so I still appreciate this kind of. But I say that it's still not very natural. But why I say he did really a great job, because it's not easy. It's not easy. Try it yourself. Try it. Why the other Western translators prefer this to translate it this way? Because I am sure they cannot do it. They cannot do this translation. They cannot. They have to be either poets or really studied English prosody so well that they can render the same meaning, this meaning, into formal equivalence, into this. So he did his best to keep both the dynamic and formal equivalence. In terms of the form, he did a great job. In terms of the language, we have to understand that, number one, he's not native speaker, but still, as a non-native speaker, in my opinion, he did a great job. And as a non-native speaker, to come up with this translation that's perfectly rhymed, perfectly metrical, and also with this perfect rhythm, I think he did a great job. This is my opinion, even though most of Western readers will not like to read this kind of poetry, will not enjoy it. But maybe because they are not well familiar with English rhythm. They are not every native speaker is familiar with English meter. Of course not. No. Even many poets, they are not so familiar with English prosody. So when I analyze his poem and his translation here, I think he did a great job in terms of rhythm. In terms of rhythm, he did a great job. In terms of translation also, he did very well. So, I mean, he did not deviate much from the meaning, from the literal meaning. Chuang Tian, before my bed. Ming Yue Guang, a pool of light. If you follow it, you find it's more or less very close, very faithful translation. Yet, there is end rhyme, there is internal rhyme, there's alliteration, and there is accentual. It's not easy. It's almost impossible. And this is what he does in all his translation. That's why he's following a very hard path. He's treading on a very hard path. It's very difficult to translate classical poetry in this way. So there is something you have to sacrifice. What he has to sacrifice here is sometimes a sentence or a line sounds unnatural. Like eyes raised, head bent, sounds unnatural. And also homesickness. In homesickness, I'm drowned. Very unnatural. Not natural English, right? He has to sacrifice because he wants to end with drowned. If we understand that, we may excuse him. Yeah, so it depends on the reader. Some Western readers, they don't prefer it this way. They don't like to read translation in such a way. It depends.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, we have been told by some of our teachers here in Lingnan that what Xu Yuanchong did was not very natural. The English he used was not really, naturally accepted in the English-speaking world. But after listening to your analysis, I started to believe that what he did was actually a self-aware trade-off, that he intended to manipulate the English in terms to preserve something that he thinks is important in the Chinese poetry. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. This is what I said. It's in the Western, to a Western reader, the English doesn't sound natural. Okay, but ask that Western reader, how much do you know about English prosody? How much do you know about English meter?
But it should still sound natural I think, because even if you read classical, let's say English poetry with all the meter and everything and rhyme, it always sounds natural, but he does not sound natural to me either. And I find that difficult to accept in poetry.
He doesn't sound natural, but even in English native speakers, when they have to keep the rhythm, they also have to sacrifice this naturalness sometimes. Take, for example, Daffodil by William Wordsworth. Daffodil by William Wordsworth, even William Wordsworth is the one who championed simplicity in language. And he said that poetry should be written in the language spoken by men, meaning the natural language, and he did that in his poetry. But however, still sometimes he has to use some unnatural language, like the Daffodils when he says, "I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high, o'er vales and hills, o'er vales." So it should be, "I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high, over vales and over." He's talking about the clouds. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills. But if he says over, that will break the rhythm. So he has to delete the V and to render it into one syllable only, not two syllables. So it's or. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high or vales and hills. This is unnatural English, but he has to do it. And also when he says in the same poem, 10,000 saw I, when he's talking about the daffodils. He saw so many of daffodils, so beautiful. And he wants to say that so many of them. He said 10,000 saw I. This is unnatural English. Nobody says 10,000 saw I or 10,000 I saw.
But that you could consider poetic license, that I understand, and it does feel natural to me. But a line like this, headband in homesickness, I'm drowned, is, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not saying it sounds natural. I agree with you that it sounds unnatural. I'm not saying it's natural. Eyes raised, headband, in homesickness, I'm drowned. All this sounds unnatural. Yes, I agree with all those who say this is unnatural. But what I am saying, he is trying to do the impossible. The
reflecting
impossible.
the form, right?
The English poets, they don't translate. They are not restricted by certain meaning. They can say whatever they like. If they don't like it, they can change it. I mean, they let the poetry flow and the meanings flow according to what they want to say. But here, he is restricted by certain words, by certain meanings. He has to express this meaning and to express it in a certain rhyme, end rhyme, and certain rhythm, certain meter. This is almost impossible. Impossible. To do it in this way, it's not. Yeah, sometimes some parts don't sound natural in English, but I still bearing in mind, and because I understand what he's trying to do, I think he did a great job in terms of rhythm, and he had to sacrifice the language, the naturalness of the language. Yes, sometimes this is understood. But for those English, as I said, those English critics, I am sure they are not well familiar with, because I talked with some, or I listened to some, and I'm 100% sure that they did not study. They cannot write in this way. They cannot translate it this way. If you ask them just for the sake of fun, just for the sake of fun, translate this poem in metrical rhythm like this one done by Sion Tong, just for the sake of fun. I can bet that they cannot. And it will be very difficult. It will be very, very difficult and may come up with a version that's not even half good as this one. So the language doesn't sound natural sometimes, but it's for the sake, he preferred to keep the rhythm, the meter, the musicality, and he had to sacrifice this natural language. Okay. So I feel that I myself I can't be harsh on him because I know what he's trying to do, and I know how hard and how difficult it is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we need to stop now. We're way over time.
Okay.
So thanks everybody for being patient, and thanks Dr. Gouda for a great talk. Lots of insights and ideas. Okay, I will see everybody next week.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Hi.
Yeah.
Can you I guess share Dr. Gouda's email too, because I want to ask him something about further studies. You know, in this field, because I'm really interested in meter and rhythms in poetry translation. So yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Gouda, do you want to share your email in the chat? Can you write it in the chat?
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, bye everybody.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye.
فكر في واجبك كما تفكر في حقك، واعمل طلبا للإتقان لا طلبا للشهرة والجزاء، ولا تنتظر من الناس أكثر مما يحق للناس أن ينتظروه منك.